Welcome to Bedtime FairyFails. I'm Kim. This story comes from the live play D&D podcast, All D20. These guys do a great show, and we had a lot of fun doing this story for them. So be sure to check out our episode description for a link to their website. This is a thrilling tale of dedication and loyalty, even if it's involuntary. This is Anything for You. Once upon a time, there were a group of heroes on a quest to find a very special coin. They had finally found a lady named Melanie who could give them one. But, as in all good RPGs, she needed something from them first. Turns out, Melanie had recently lost her pet Fluffy, and she agreed to give the heroes their coin if they'd bring him home. Easy peasy. Before we get into the follow-up about why it's not going to be easy peasy, let's meet our party. First, we have Rogar, the Dragonborn monk, who was raised in a monastery and only wears half his clothes. Next is Captain Christo Cruz, the Yuan-Ti bard, who wakes up every morning with some new weird effect on him. No one is sure why. Next is Velik, a Gitsurai wizard, who's a huge bookworm and has a really badass robe. And finally, Marza Raneth, an otherling paladin and a proud knight of the Lanthus. She also has a sword that talks to her and drinks blood. Also, they're all vampires. The heroes head over to the graveyard where Fluffy is hiding, and inside the 4-foot fence surrounding it is a horde of zombies. And not just zombies. Also, 2 undead frost giants wielding massive axes. Now, the heroes had been traveling for a while, and since no one listened to Marza when she told them they should rest, they were not in the best shape to be fighting these guys. So Christo the Bard says they should go take a rest before they do this. And of course they listen when he says they should rest. So our party heads off to the Last Drop Inn. When they walk inside, the first thing they see is a group of werewolf bros roughhousing under a sign that says, "Werewolves welcome. Weta approved." An old vampire who is completely hairless except for an epically long beard is standing behind the bar cleaning glasses with a particularly disgusting rag. According to a sign hanging behind him, this vampire's name is Devin. Man, there are a lot of signs in this tavern. Anyway, Devin tells the party that he had some open coffins they could rent for the night. Coffins that he had dubbed coffin drops, because they're coffins. And it's the Last Drop Inn. Coffin drops.
Bedtime FairyFails approves of this pun.
The heroes have some A- blood at the bar while Christo plays his mandolin, and soon it's time to hit the creepy hay. The group heads upstairs, then after a brief discussion about whether or not Marza would murder Velik to let her sword drink his blood, they all go to their respective coffins. Turns out the coffins locked from the inside, so they all felt safe from their own teammates and slept like the dead.
That one too.
The next morning, they level up and notice that Christo seems way too agreeable this morning. Even to the extent of taking a side quest that they really didn't want. It was strange. Eventually, the party heads out through the town and south to the graveyard. When they get there, Christo says,
"Guys, I have an idea. I don't know if they have concerts here, but I have a spell that can make them dance."
Where are you going with this, Christo?
Asks Rogar.
"I'll distract the zombies with an epic concert while you go in and get Fluffy."
The rest of the party decide to go with this plan, because who wouldn't want to see a horde of zombies dancing? So Christo walks over to the iron gate and whispers,
"Psst, Hey, there's an epic concert going on over here. You guys should come here and, check it out and dance. It'll be like a monster bash. You can dance and get jiggy with it and just be you. So I really suggest you do it.
And with that, Christo casts mass suggestion on all of them. He opens the gate, directs them to an empty nearby lot, and watches as 12 zombies start dancing. And they're all dancing in sync. For some strange reason, their hair is slicked back. They're now wearing red vests with some nice slacks. They're doing special moves with their shoulders and their arms to a very interesting beat. A thrilling success. Just then, an undead giant stands up from in front of a pillar and looks at them. Pieces of flesh fall from its face as it growls at them. Just as it grabs the giant axe from its back, Rogar calls Christo over. Remember how I said when Christo wakes up every morning something weird happens?
Uh-huh.
Well, Rogar has realized that today, Christo seems willing to do pretty much anything anyone tells him to. So after learning that Christo is cursed and that's what's causing the morning roulette, Rogar says,
Christo, protect yourself. Take care of yourself and us.
I'd be happy to.
replies an eager Christo.
Don't walk into danger.
I'd be happy to. Anything for you, Rogar.
Just then, the giant starts running towards them with an axe in hand. Rogar's speech resonated in Christo's head.
Take care of yourself and us.
Anything for you, Rogar.
He is going to fulfill his promise. Christo is going to single-handedly keep everyone safe. He quickly sees the easiest way of dealing with this situation. The undead frost giant, still dripping flesh all gross-like, swings his axe over his head as he approaches the heroes at full speed. Just as he starts to bring the axe down, poof! The frost giant is suddenly gone, and in its place, a tiny little canary. Christo had cast polymorph on the giant, changing it from its giant scary shape into this cute little soft one that flies away.
Problem solved. We're all saved.
Announces Christo proudly. He then looks over at Rogar and says,
Anything for you, Rogar.
Good job, Christo.
replies Rogar.
That was amazing, Christo.
Exclaims Marza.
Of course. Anything for you.
What?
Says a confused Marza. While Marza's sword tells her to stab Christo, Rogar tells Christo not to listen to anybody else but him. Marza tries the same thing and says,
Christo, don't listen to anyone but me.
La.
I could describe what Christo did there, but I think we all know that sound. The heroes head over to the first mausoleum they see and open the door to start their search for Fluffy. There, lying fast asleep on the floor, is a giant, reanimated dragon skeleton. Bellic says,
We found Fluffy!
Oh yeah, Fluffy is a giant reanimated dragon skeleton. Maybe I should have told you that first. But anyway. The party proceeds to use the undead dragon treats Melanie had given them to create a trail of food leading the dragon back home. As they leave the graveyard, dragon in tow, they pass by the horde of zombies still jamming out. They successfully lead Fluffy home and receive their special coin from Melanie, making this the first time in FairyFail history that I say easy peasy and it actually turns out to be easy peasy, much to the DM's dismay. The end. Now, I know what you're thinking, but wait, what about Christo's curse? What was that coin and what did they need it for? Does Marza kill the rest of the party? Don't worry, you can find All D20 on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or anywhere else you listen. This next story was sent in by an All D20 fan who only told me they were Italians. This is a story about never giving up, even when things seem and probably are impossible. This is Don't Be So Hasty. Once upon a time, a group of heroes had learned about an elven shrine that had been corrupted by goblins. And not just any shrine, a shrine to the god that one of them served. It was their duty to cleanse it. In the party, we have a dwarf cleric, a human fighter, and the one serving the god was an elf wizard. The shrine was located deep in a dungeon, and luckily the heroes had already cleared out most of it. Actually, they had already defeated the big baddie inside, so they figured the worst was behind them and taking back the shrine would be a piece of cake. Which, of course, is never a good assumption to make. Except for that last story. They enter the temple, which is divided into 2 rooms by a big, heavy curtain. Inside, they find some goblins who immediately attack. The 3 heroes fight bravely, taking down each goblin one by one until there is only one remaining. The wizard could feel the presence of the shrine in the next room and runs through the curtain, trusting his comrades to finish off the last of the goblins. When he enters, he sees the shrine and heads straight towards it. What he doesn't see, however, are the 3 goblin priests who had ran and hid upon hearing the commotion in the next room. They spring out and rush the lone wizard. The other 2 heroes were still fighting off the last goblin in the other room, and they were unable to come to his aid. The wizard fights with everything he has, but it's 3-on-1, and wizards aren't exactly known for their tanking abilities. He's throwing spells as fast as he can, but the goblins are quick with their blades. It isn't long before the wizard goes down. He lies dead at the base of the very shrine he came to save. When the cleric and the fighter make it into the room, they are met with the grisly scene of their fellow adventurer lying dead in a pool of blood, with the goblins ready to attack them next. The cleric is filled with bloodlust for the death of his fallen friend, and he rushes at the goblins, throwing everything he has at them in a fit of grief and rage.
Wait!
Yells the fighter.
You have to use the scroll! There's no time!
You see, the group had in their possession a Revivify scroll, which they could use to bring back their fallen comrade. However, there are some rules to the scroll. It had to be used within 1 minute of the person's death, and only the cleric is able to read it. The cleric, who is so focused on making the goblins regret all their life choices that he doesn't even hear the fighter pleading with him. The fighter knows it's up to him. He can't read the scroll, but he has to try. He can't let his friend die at the base of his own god's shrine. Surely if he tries, the wizard's god will lend aid and help bring back the worthy follower who had given his life for the shrine. Time is ticking away, and while the cleric is winning against the goblins, there is no time to wait. The fighter kneels beside his friend, opens the scroll, and begins to read. He says what he thinks are the magic words and reaches out to touch the wizard's body. As soon as his hand makes contact, the unthinkable happens. The body explodes. Blood and guts fly across the room, coating everything around them. The fighter sits in stunned silence as the now victorious cleric makes his way over to the scene of the carnage.
What did you do?
He asks.
I don't know, I just read the scroll. I thought I could do it.
The wizard looks down at the scroll, still in the shaky hands of the fighter, and says,
Well, there's your problem. You're holding it sideways.
The fighter yells back,
Well, maybe if you hadn't ran in all bloodlusty, the person who could read it could have actually read it.
Someone had to avenge our fallen brother.
If you had read the scroll, he wouldn't be a fallen brother. You know I can't read very well.
Well,
Why
you're supposed
should
to
I
be
be the one to
fighter
read
here.
the scroll?
I was working
If you
my
were
butt
here
off
when you were
out there.
supposed
While
to
you're
be,
sitting here trying to
you
read
could have
a scroll
read the
you know
scroll
you
and maybe
can't
none of
read.
this would have
Why
happened.
would you even try
I blame
that?
The end. Thanks for listening. To submit a fail, email me at bedtimefairyfails@gmail.com or message me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Bedtime FairyFails and Twitter as BT FairyFails.